My name is Jim and I was retired. In my DIY retirement, I've learned a lot from those bloggers and tweeters, including those in the FIRE movement. FIRE stands for Financial Independence Retire Early. Now, that was never my plan, but many of the principles apply to my unexpected early retirement. So now that I'm Medicare-age retiree, though, I'm a little worried that some of the best FIRE minds used to practice medicine. So in this video, I'm going to call it Physician Heal Myself. One of the Twitter accounts that I follow is Physician on Fire, Dr. Leif Dahleen, who retired as an anesthesiologist in 2019 at the age of 43. Since 2016, he has authored his own blog site, physicianonfire.com, and I'll put a link down below. He and the White Coat Investor are two of the smartest DIY personal finance writers out there, which is why I'm worried about where I'm going to find my medical care in my retirement. Earlier this week, I saw this recent tweet by Dr. Dahleen and decided to see if his net worth tracker could work for me. So let's go on the grand rounds together to take a look. By the way, I'm recording this portion in Keynote as an experiment. I think I'll revert to my old QuickTime recording for some of the upcoming on-screen recordings. Here's the QuickTime version for my on-screen recording. I think it's going to be a little bit more productive than the Keynote. Not everything new works as well. So let's go on with our grand rounds. But here is the tweet from Dr. Dahleen, the Physician on Fire, for his DIY spreadsheet to track net worth. And it auto updates. So let's see what it looks like here. That opens up this blog here that describes his DIY spreadsheet. And down here, he offers an opportunity to download the spreadsheet. Just sign up for his newsletter, which is well worth it. But let's give it a try here. So the first thing I did was download the spreadsheet from his website and then opened it up in Numbers. Now, he created it in Excel, but also the blog points out on how to adapt it to Google Sheets. He says he knows nothing about Apple products. That's what I use. So here's my little experiment on how well the tool will work in Numbers. Numbers is going to open that Excel file, but with some of the features that won't work. And that's true of the Google Sheets version as well. Unless you have Excel and a current subscription, what he built won't exactly work as described. But you can change the features that he had in Excel and adapt them with numbers formulas. For instance, stock is a numbers formula, and it works but a little bit differently. So I'm going to go through the process of replacing the assets here with some of my assets. And I'm not going to do the whole portfolio, but I just want to give you a sense of how this tool works versus some other options. So I'm going to begin with a few tickers that are in my wife's brokerage IRA and Roth IRA accounts. And I'll begin in C3 here with FSPGX. And the next thing you need to do is use that stock function in Numbers to change the price, which you'll see is still somebody else's price. It notes here that the formula comes in as underscore FV as an unsupported function, and it needs to be replaced with the proper function. So we're going to do that here. And I'm going to use this as the symbol, and I'm going to get the price. And you see that works. Now, the shares are wrong here, so I'm going to need to change that too. And I'll do that in a minute here. but I want to go through the other thing is that the name is wrong. Now he has a method of doing that over in Q and R, but I'm going to do it right here, again, with the same stock function, with the symbol pointing to here, and change this to name. And that gives you the name. Here I've gone through and I've put in the first three, stopped here, because it occurs to me that I've got a faster way of entering all of the tickers and share to get me a true value to plug in here. And that is by adding a sheet and then pasting in my current Quicken values. And then I'm going to refer to these here and these here over on this sheet here. As you see, that's what I've done to get those values. And you can keep on doing that. Now, I did notice a few things. As I go through this and go over here, did you see this? Stock doesn't have expense ratio among its attributes that you can use in numbers. So that's different. So before I do anything else, I'm going to experiment with downloading this and uploading it to Google Sheets. Again, all I did was open the download file in Google Sheets. And the next thing you want to do is actually go over here to File and Save as Google Sheets to enter the whole world of Google Sheets as opposed to just a Excel type file. So here I've gone through and taken the other sheet, same as I did in the numbers version. I put that here, that's here, and went back here and plugged in prices and shares to get me the value of the account, and it shows you the full functionality of what he has. And again, I didn't do it all. I stopped at about 37, so it's only a portion of my portfolio. But here's how it looks. It comes down to these two little open pie charts, pie charts, down here of a desired allocation and a current allocation. The way these pie charts work are from these two tables down here. And down here, you see the current balance, and you can see this sum product formula of an array with a feature to give you this number of US stocks from this above. And again, you got to get this all right. That's the other thing that I noticed as I was going through this. Real estate, okay, I'll put it in alternative. I separate it out as REIT in my breakout. This function did work. The Google Finance expense ratio function does work, and that was good. But I also noticed that things like the I-bonds that I have. So what do? I just put them in the bonds. Actually, I kind of think they're more cash-like than bonds, but it's a judgment call as you use any of these tools. And when you get to treasury notes, the same thing. So there is a little bit of difference of opinion as to how to use these. There's only these categories here of U.S., international, bond, alternative, and cash. And I get a little bit more precise in the way I break out, for instance, large cap versus small cap in the U.S., rather than just listing all U.S. The other thing I noticed that this doesn't have is it has a current value, but it doesn't have cost basis, and therefore doesn't have gains and losses. And so while this is an interesting experiment, it's, I don't think, as useful as I would like it to be. And again, you plug in your own desired percentages, and I roughed it here with something close to where I am. So it gets me to think, would a better option be to go out to my Google sites and see what portfolio by buckets looks like? So we're going to go over here And we're going to see the portfolio by buckets, which I've shared not only in these episodes, but in other episodes on how I manage asset allocation across the 3 time buckets and 3 tax buckets. You can find my spreadsheet by doing this little pop out and then open with. And at this point, you can open with Google Sheets or you can download it right here. So you could download the Excel version and open it up in Excel and use it, or you can open it in Google Sheets. If you download the Excel, you can also open it up in Numbers, and most of it should work for you because I don't bother with auto updating formulas like the Good Doctor does. I use Quicken to do that. I paste the Quicken values. Quicken does a very good job of updating the prices on a lot of things, including my brokered CDs, which this method doesn't do. It's got a pretty good handle of tracking down what my cost basis is and my current market value and the current price of those things that are on the open exchanges. So I use the Quicken as my record account and then paste that into my spreadsheet. So here, I'm going to open it up in Sheets and show you what that looks like. First thing you're going to do is you're going to open it up in Sheets, and it's going to still be in the Excel formula, but you can go over here again and then save it as a Google Sheets. If you need background on these, please see my previous videos on this. But this is all dummy data that I'm just using here to show the functionality of the spreadsheet. But this gives you an idea of how it works. You paste all of the Quicken values here, and then they are repeated over here. You need to adjust the asset mixtures here, and I do it simply by equity versus bond. I don't try to put it into one of the 5 that the Good Doctor did. I just do it that way. But again, that's only from my asset mixture kind of accounts, like balanced funds, and I don't have many of those anymore. I have pure ETFs and simple index funds. But I also have, as you see, asset classes that begin like CD, REIT, cash, domestic bonds. Now, I've gone on and refined this more to divide the domestic bonds into treasury, I-bonds, and tips. So they're all separated, so I know how much tips I have, for instance, and it's way too much. But you have a better breakdown of things. But this happens here on this page, and then that adds down here to an overall mixture, and then assigning the asset allocation blended funds. These are the final current allocations shown here in this pie chart. And then I have, instead of those 2 separate tables and the 2 desired and current donuts, I have this simple table that shows you, okay, so here's your current allocation and your target allocation. Now, my target allocation has changed since this one. I'm now aiming towards a 60-40 rather than something that was based on my 110 minus age breakdown. But this gives you the ability to put this. This shows you the difference, and then the dollar value based on your current overall balance of how much you should move to get rebalanced. This is where I spent a lot of time, is on the 3 buckets page. And this, again, has the same things, but it has added columns of time buckets and tax buckets. And again, since all of this comes from Quicken and it's already lumped assets by accounts, you can simply just taxable, tax deferred, taxable, tax free. It's very easy to put the tax buckets in when it's in the Quicken format and you're just using that over and over again. Now, these are the asset mixtures that I used to have in the sample. It shows you how you break them out. It gives you the dollar values, which are then added to like large cap to give you the total large cap. and that all happens down below. And again, this uses some ifs to get you a total of whether two categories are met, whether it's a asset mixture in bucket 1, or in this case, a large cap stock in bucket 2. And in this case, it adds the percentage of the asset mixture that is related to equity in with that number to give you the right number there. But this all adds up to these charts here that show the asset allocation by time buckets, the 3 time buckets, and the time buckets by tax buckets. Below here, you get asset allocations within the tax buckets, the 3 tax buckets, and the tax buckets by time buckets. But this gives me a better handle of my asset allocation. So if it's of interest to you, please go out to my Google site and download this version. Again, I don't have a newsletter to sign up for. It's for yours for the taking. Just make a copy. You can't edit the one that's there. You have to make a copy, download it into your Excel, Google Sheets, numbers, and have at it. By the way, please take a moment to like and subscribe to this channel if you like entertaining ideas from one educated consumer to another. I am not a doctor. I am not a financial planner. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just an average DIY retiree making it on my own. So I will conclude with my standard warning. Please take these as entertaining ideas from one educated consumer to another. Always do your own due diligence and seek out a professional if you need one. See you next time.